Hi, it's Lori from Coast to Coast Craft Girls coming to you from the West Coast. Today I wanted to share a little bit with you. I'm going to do some stamping today, and I'm going to stamp wreaths. And I'm going to show you a lot of different ways to make wreaths out of with stamps. And so some of these, like this one, is an actual kind of somewhat of anyway of a wreath in and of itself. The stamp itself is a wreath. And then this one is a Crafter's Companion rotating stamp. And so this one, if you look at the stamp, it looks doesn't really look like a wreath. It doesn't look like that. But it will once you rotate and stamp 4 different times. So I'm going to show you how I do that. And then this one, I'm going to use 2 different stamps, just individual stamps. And I know you'll look at these and say, this is actually a stamp and die set. But I'm going to use this cupcake stamp to make like a wreath. And I know you're probably thinking, how on earth are you going to do that? But I will show you. So let's get started. We're going to start with the easy one, which is this one. And I'm just going to stamp that heart wreath very easily. And I've got a bunch of paper already cut, so this is super easy. I love this Tim Holtz stamping platform. The Crafter's Companion stamping platform is good. I personally like the hinged style. It works well for me. I use the Crafter's Companion one for certain stamps. But I have to admit, for most of my stamping, I use this one and I like it. And so we're just going to put that on there and line it up. And then you just close. And I'm going to stamp with a Finesse alcohol proof ink because I'm going to go back and color it with alcohol markers. So just dab. You can rub, but I generally just dab it on. And you don't want to push down hard, although this ink pad is pretty firm, so you can push down and it doesn't really squidge out too much. And the stamping platform is nice because if you don't get it right the first time, you can go back and do it again. I do have and actually that looks pretty good. I usually don't get it right the first time. That looks pretty good. All right, so there's your simplest method of stamping a wreath. You buy a stamp that's really already a wreath, and you just stamp it out, and you get your wreath. Now I'm going to show you how you can use a rotating stamp to get a wreath. I'll get a bigger piece of paper. That will fit. So this Crafter's Companion stamp is called a rotating stamp, and it tells you basically you stamp it once and then you rotate this. It says just rotate the stamp 90 degrees or the stamping platform 90 degrees. I'm going to show you a little trick, the way I do it, that I personally think is a lot easier. So I need a piece of card that's 5.5 by 5.5. So I made a template, and to make this template, I took a piece of cardboard, and if you have like a Cricut machine or something, that's actually perfect. Because what I did is I took a square that's 5.5 by 5.5, and I centered it, and then I took a second square, rotated it 45 degrees, and and centered the two of them and then cut that shape out. And it gives you this nice template that will hold your 5.5 by 5.5 piece of paper. And then I'm going to line up my stamp on there exactly in the middle. Pick up that stamp. So I made this little template, and I actually have them in 5 by 5 and 4.5 by 4.5 and 4 by 4. And so you can make them in, or 3 by 3, 4 by 4, 5 by 5, 5.5 by 5.5. You could make one 6 by 6 or whatever size you wanted, but it's made exactly the same way. Super easy. It works great for these rotating stamps. It also works for another way that I'm going to show you how to do this. So anyway, press that down, stamp down to make sure you get all the bubbles out. And then I like to do these rotating stamps in just kind of a monochrome look, mostly because I like the looks out of them, and it's kind of hard to pick out the different pieces for different colors, I think. So I do it this way and just give it a good press all the way around. And then don't move the stamp, and you just rotate the paper 90 degrees. And it fits right in there. Re-ink your stamp and just keep doing it. The same thing. Okay, rotate your paper. And last time, you can see I pressed down too hard right here, but I'm going to ink the edges anyway, so it's okay. And that's where I got ink on the edge of that. If you can try to not push down so you're not getting ink all over the edges, you're less likely to get that. The other option is once it's there, take a cloth or a paper towel or something and wipe the extra ink off, especially around these edges. You just have to be careful not to get the ink off of the raised stamping area like I just did, because now I'm going to have to re-ink that. If you're a little more careful when you're inking your stamp, it helps. I pushed down too hard. Okay, make sure your paper's good and lined up. And it gives you essentially a perfect result every time. I find this to be the absolute easiest way to use those rotating stamps as opposed to anything else, is by using this little template and then moving the paper as opposed to shifting the stamping platform or anything else. I know Crafter's Companion tells you and they show you how to do it, and I've tried so many different ways on the stamping platform from Crafter's Companion and rotating the stamping platform. I can never get it to work as well as when I did this. So that's my top tip on how to use these rotating stamps. Now I'm going to show you another way to use essentially the same idea. I need a smaller. This is 5x5. So I'm going to go to my 5x5 template. And you can use these not only with the rotating stamps, but with any stamp to create a wreath. So let me pick a stamp. Let's see. Here's one. We'll just use this little rose stamp from there. Okay. I haven't tried this with this stamp on this size, so this is why they call it playing. I'm going to go back to my brown. Yeah, I'll just use the brown water or alcohol proof. And again, we're going to leave that stamp in that place. So we're just going to stamp that. Except this time, I'm going to shift it not 90 degrees, I'm going to shift it 45 degrees. Okay. My paper in there. And we just shift 45 again and just keep going. So it was there. So here. You just have to keep track of where you were. But you can always kind of close it and see if it's going to line up. Wow, I planned that pretty well, didn't I? You never know that I was just winging that. And that looks pretty good. And there's your wreath. Now, if you wanted to add to it, you can now take another flower. Let's say I want to put a flower in the middle, and I want to, and just kind of line it up on this one. And now let's stamp all the way around with that one. And this will just fill out that wreath a little bit, make it a little bit thicker. It is time consuming, but the results are worth it. And let's face it, this is super easy to do. All you need is a piece of cardboard. If you don't have a cutting machine, if you have a Cricut, super easy to make this template. If you don't have a Cricut or a Silhouette or some sort of an electronic cutting machine, you can do it with dies or with a ruler and a craft knife. It's just a little bit harder because you have to make sure that you get these exactly in the center. Both squares have to be perfectly aligned for it to work. If you don't get them perfectly aligned, it won't work. And there you go. Doesn't that look great? And now if you wanted to add more to it, you could, but I'm going to leave it just like that because I love that. Perfect wreath from just a single stamp, just by creating a template with a piece of cardboard. Now, let me show you. Now that's the the cheap way to do it. Now, if you want there is a tool for this, and We Are Memory Keepers makes a rotating stamp platform. And this is basically designed to do exactly what I was doing. And that's how I'm going to use my little cupcake. And I'm going to get a piece of paper. Let's see how big this is. 6 by 6. So this is a little stamping platform. It's got spring-loaded feet. And essentially, the way this works is this is a magnet. So you just slide it off. You line this up so that corner is aligned with the 6-inch because it's 6 by 6. It only works with square paper, and you can have square paper anywhere from 4 by 4 up to 12 by 12, and this will work. But get it 6 by 6. Get it lined up, and then set that down. And they're really strong magnets. It'll grab. Then we're going to put our. I was going to use a cupcake. Maybe yeah, I think I'm going to use a cupcake. So we're going to get that lined up pretty close because I want it needs to be able to fit here. So, in fact, let's spin that around so I can get it lined up. That'll be the first one I stamp. And we're going to get it lined up on there. So as you see, 6 by 6, and then this knob just turns, and that allows you to ink up your stamp and stamp in exactly the right spot every time. And that magnet's super strong, and it will hold everything. I'm going to use a Flagstone alcohol proof ink. Again, I'm going to use an alcohol proof ink because I'm going to color it. And this is the same concept as the Crafter's Companion stamping platform. So let's just ink that up. I don't think I've ever used this stamp before, so hopefully it will work and not give me too many. But see, if you didn't get a perfect impression, just like the Crafter's Companion stamping platform, because you haven't moved your paper, you just ink it and do it again. And it just falls right into place once you get those on there. And then press straight down. Okay. And then you rotate it. And I'm going to rotate it 3 times because that'll give me a nice space in there. And then to get that magnet off, the easiest way is to kind of slide it because it's pretty strong. That's the We Are Memory Keepers rotating stamp platform, I think is what it's called. And it gives you perfect wreath with any stamp. So that's if you want to spend money on a tool. Here's the cheater way if you don't want to spend money on a tool and you just want to use cardboard. They all make perfect wreaths. Now I'm going to color these in and make some cards, and I'll show you when I'm done. I'll be back with you in a few minutes. Okay, so I've taken all those stamped wreaths and made cards out of them. All I did was ink around the edges, put some sentiments in, and put them on a card base. You could add some gems or a ribbon here and there, but pretty simple, pretty fast, and beautiful cards. And just to remind you, this was the rotating stamp. This was the stamp that's already a wreath. The stamp itself is a wreath. This one I used the template, the little rectangular template that I had. And this is the one that I used the We Are Memory Keepers rotating stamp tool for. So have fun with that. Enjoy.